Welcome inside Under the Microscope. It's the Week 11 edition with myself, John Ledyard, and Brandon Thorn. We're going to take you guys inside a couple of the best blocks of the week, a couple of the best offensive line performances, and then we're going to look at a couple of the best pass rush performances of the week. Even threw an interior D lineman into the mix this week on that side of things instead of just looking at edge guys. So it should be a fun one. I'm excited about this Under the Microscope, Brandon, and you're going to get us started with, I can't say this guy's name, but I read about him all week. Crazy story of success. Is it Ty Nseke?
Yeah, that's what I've been saying,
Okay.
or I've even heard Nseke. So I don't know. I mean, it's a good question. We could just call him Ty.
Yeah. Ty's at left tackle for the Redskins, filling in for Trent Williams, who's suspended, and doing an admirable job in that role. And his story's pretty crazy, how he's bounced around and had to play in a number of different places, including outside the NFL, just to have this chance that he's now making the most of. So pretty cool to see how far he's come, and I'm excited to see what you got for us on his tape.
Yeah, I wanted to watch him just because I always watch Redskins offensive line tape, for really I just love watching them, their scheme. Bill Callahan, the offensive line coach, does a great job, and Trent Williams has probably been my number one guy this year to watch that I like, I have to watch every week. And Brandon Scherf is quickly becoming that guy as well. So, I was just checking him out, and I mean, he did a great job against Clay Matthews. I mean, I know Clay Matthews is coming off a pretty serious injury, but either I think Clay is still kind of hurt or Ty just like dominated him, either one. Well, it's just interesting to see this pairing go at each other the entire game basically. And I didn't really see Ty get beat. So we're going to go through a bunch of these plays and just kind of show you why, what has allowed him to have success. And, keep in mind, this guy's 6'8", 335 pounds. So he's massive, and he moves pretty well for his size. So that's kind of what I wanted to point out. So we'll go to the first play here and check it out. So you can see, he has a really nice functional stance. Clay Matthews is in the wide 9. He's just going to be coming off the edge. And, he just makes it look easy there. Clay Matthews is trying to convert speed to power a little bit.
And Matthews probably doesn't get a good first step either. Like he's like rocking a little bit in his stance, and he's actually going backwards when the ball's hiked, so he doesn't really get. So it allows Nseke to get out there and really set up that half-man relationship.
Yeah, exactly. And he's just really efficient with his footwork, on the way out there. Just really efficient. Braces nicely, good hand placement, and just, shuts it down for the most part. So that was, good first rep. Again, just really nice coming out of his stance. I like the independent hand usage here. He really likes using that left hand, which is kind of dangerous to use that outside hand, but he does it. His arms are so long that by independently striking like that, he's kind of almost long harming the defensive lineman in a sense, and keeping him away from his chest. And, Clay Matthews, you could see his length is just no match for Ty there.
It's interesting because Matthews went with the long arm approach as well. So it's actually Ty's ability to time that out. Yeah, it was really impressive because it happened to be the exact move that would win in that situation. And Matthews, I think Matthews, and I'm not going to be super critical of him, although I've been in the past. I think he's a very good football player. I think he's overrated as a pass rusher in that there's not always a super intricate plan of attack off the edge. Like he just kind of does what he does regardless of what the weaknesses of an opponent are. So, I felt like in this game it was kind of like pounding head against a long arm, bull rush, power moves as often as possible. And like you said, Ty handled those really well.
Yeah, like I said, I really do think Clay might be a little hurt still, or something's nagging him, or he just didn't play well because Ty kind of had his way with him. But yeah, I do think there's something to be said about maybe a lack of a pass rush plan that he kind of exhibits a lot. So yeah, I really love this play. When you really kind of look at it slowly, this is a really kind of a savvy play right here because Ty has this safety right here, or 29, I think that's a safety. So his job is basically to kind of clean up the inside and then work down or work out to him. And just watch the patience that he shows because 29 kind of hesitates here. So instead of just running out to him, Ty secures the first level first, stays patient, and waits. And it's just kind of nice. So he sees him, and he sees that he's not coming. So he's like, okay, let me help out, which is a huge help on Mike Daniels right there. And then he just kind of lets himself, flow to the defensive back, and he springs a big run. It's just, a little nuance, patience, mental processing. Just a nice job.
Oh, yeah, that's a great play. It's a great that you caught that, and a great play too because you're right. I mean, you can see his eye level. He's looking, is he coming? Is he coming? Can I help here? Always about finding work. Can I help here? Secure this for the cutback, and great vision by the running back too, I'll say.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, that's an awesome play. That's a veteran-like play almost to be that patient and have kind of multiple things going through your mind at once and being able to take care of both.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Ty's 31. He's so he's been around. Like as you mentioned, he played in the Arena League for a few years. He's been on I think 6 or let me see, Colts, Rams, Saints, Redskins twice. He's got cut. He was on the Los Angeles Kiss last year. So this guy's been everywhere, man. But he's definitely been coached up a lot. And, you could kind of see some of that shine through there. This is really, really nice. Just the way he comes out here is just, I mean, that's so fast. And his hands are just ready to strike. He uses independent again. Goes to a two-hand strike there. Matthews kind of wins the edge here, but he does just a really nice job with his hands to kind of get leverage back, and he just runs him right by.
And this is interesting because you mentioned it earlier. You said it's dangerous to go with that outside arm and the independent hand usage, but it's been something that works for him. And this exactly. This is why. And Clay, give him credit because he recognized that and attacked that outside arm, got a good club down in there and swatted it down. But I like that Ty was able to keep his balance and his weight back enough that he isn't lunging and falling forward when this happens. He's able to recover really quickly with really good balance. And like you said, he's huge. And so for a guy his size to be able to move, and that right hand goes right to the hip of Matthews. So you can't bend the edge of that hip. You can see it right there on his hip, and just nudge him up the arc. That's how you got to do it. And Cousins, too, great presence in the pocket. It's just a good all-around play. And like you said, you might get beat to the edge a little bit, but you got to be able to recover in those situations. He did it brilliantly here.
Yeah, like I mentioned before, I love to see guys get uncomfortable and see how they react. I think that's a pretty good tell of, how good of a player they are. So it's just nice to see. And, with his strikes, even though he is striking independently a lot like that, they're really, really not like vicious strikes. And they never really should be as an offensive lineman. Right. It's all about kind of messing up their timing, So it's really kind of like a pitter-pat type of thing, like they want to be violent, but you don't, you know what I mean? That you definitely never want to extend your arm all the way.
You don't want to be over-aggressive and get off balance either. That weight out over your toes could be the end, and here he's able to keep it back enough to be able to recover and move laterally in time.
Exactly. Yeah. This might be the last one, but it's just more of the same. I mean, just absolutely shuts him down here and then gets him on the ground.
Yeah, and you'd think, power moves, is that what you want to use just again, given his frame and everything like that? I mean, sometimes, because of the fact that he's taller, I think Matthews tried to do that. But look at the bend he plays with. I mean, Matthews has a little bit of leverage here, but look at him reestablish it. It's just a great play because he's kind of like, I mean, he's not even really pushed back, I wouldn't say. He's just in his set kind of, and then Matthews kind of gets underneath him, and his hands are maybe a little bit wide, but watch him reposition. And he drops his hips, and then
Exactly.
he becomes the low man here before the end of the rep.
Yeah, it's impressive. It's good mobility, good job of repositioning his hands to kind of get that leverage back, and he just completely halts him and then does a nice finish here.
Yep,
That was
throws him on the
nice.
ground.
Yeah.
This is a tone setting performance, man. I saw some of it live and I was like, man, he is just owning Clay Matthews. But this is awesome to see it all broken down like this. He's real. I mean, and technique, that's the thing. Like you said, you've been coached up a lot, been a lot of different places, but sometimes it's like an overload of information, or guys ask different things, different types of sets, different types of, some guys want to go with their hands underneath, some guys want to go direct punch, some would probably say deter from, independent hand usage and things like that. But he's been able to figure out what works for him, what's comfortable for him, and adapt it to what Washington's teaching him, which I think is just really impressive.
Yeah, definitely, man. There's that length and then that hand placement, hand timing on the strike. Again, he's in a good position with the leverage. I mean, he's on him right here. I mean, you could see the size of his hands and the length of his arms. I mean, it's overwhelming.
Yeah, Matthews really can't. You can see Matthews' hand kind of waving around near his chest. He can't really reach his chest, and that's
Right.
Ty's length is obviously superior to Matthews, but you can see his hand kind of waving in there. He can't really get to Ty's chest, and so he's trying to use counter moves, and he just doesn't set it up well enough. But he continued to go with that long arm approach most of the game that wasn't really working for him very well.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, his size is really he uses his size really nicely. I'll say that.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I just love how he's not balanced, and to handle the twist game, throw a
Yeah.
little bit of that at him, trying to get him thinking. And right away, if you're mentally processing what you see pre-snap, seeing Clay Matthews from a 2-point stance and a 3 technique probably gives you an idea that this could be coming. Because normally those roles are reversed. Peppers kicks inside on obvious passing downs, and Matthews is outside. And if they're switched, that usually means a twist is coming for Green Bay. And so I don't know if he processed that ahead of time, but by the way that he handled this, it looks like he thought that he knew that this could be coming. And maybe Sean Laval helped him seeing that too as a veteran.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, keeping that inside hand like that, kind of reached out, that kind of helps, maintain his spatial awareness. And, he recognizes Peppers hesitate and,
Yeah.
Immediately does what he's coached to do. He almost kind of uses Laval as like a lever to kind of balance himself and just smoothly takes it over. It's just a really nice, clean rep. All right, so this is just a single play. Bakhtiari was, his usual self, and he was just fantastic. Lane Taylor. This is a guy, he's been interesting. He took over for Josh Sitton when they got rid of him, surprisingly earlier in the year, and he's been pretty solid at left guard. They're missing T.J. Lang at right guard in this game, and that hurt him, quite a bit.
Don Barkley got beat up.
Yeah, it was. They definitely miss Lang. They don't have a whole lot of depth anymore, on their line. So if somebody goes down, they're kind of in trouble. But you can make a strong case, and I think the more I think about it, I think this is the best offensive tackle pairing in the NFL.
Sure.
I mean, they're just awesome. But really nice blocks here by Taylor and Bakhtiari that I want to look at. So yeah, Taylor just looks for work, helps, and then Bakhtiari, I mean, he's like a freaking ninja with his hands, dude.
Yeah,
he's amazing.
I actually was watching him the other night, and his feet are ridiculous too. Like, I mean, they're so quick, and he's so intense every rep. I just love the kind of demeanor that he brings to each play. Like,
I agree.
I mean, there's just nothing lethargic. If you watch him and you watch some of the other tackles around the league, and their body posture and kind of just the way that they react to whatever a defensive player does, you can tell the difference in not only athleticism but just work ethic. I mean, you can tell Bakhtiari has gone through 1,000 different footwork exercises to get to the point that he is. I mean, his feet are just like unbelievable to watch.
Yeah, that's a good point about his demeanor. I think it's pretty special. He plays kind of like with his hair on fire,
Mm-hmm.
like he's intense every rep,
Right.
every second. It's really fun. I wanted to highlight this because so I'm pretty sure that Bakhtiari reacts the way he does on this rep. You'll see when he comes out of his stance, he really works to cover this inside.
Oh.
Um, and then Starks is releasing to kind of chip Preston Smith, or this is Trent Murphy. He kind of releases to chip the defensive end, and I think Bakhtiari knows this, and he plays off of it, and it's just really nice. It's just good mental processing and awareness by him to know that he has that running back helping his outside, so he's going to be extra cautious to cover the inside, and you'll kind of see that. So right there, I mean, he doesn't even care about that defensive end right now. He's looking straight at that defensive tackle, and the running back kind of covers him up, and then Bakhtiari gets back outside. This timing right here is beautiful. I mean, Bakhtiari times that perfect.
Mm-hmm. Because his steps are still taking him to a point where he can take away the edge, but his eyes are inside, and he knows if he has to step down, he can. And as soon as that 4-eye technique or whatever that is, their 5 technique, as soon as he leaves his space, his eyes go back outside. And a little assist from Starks there just in terms of spacing probably. And I think that's Trent Murphy handles him just perfectly.
Yeah, dude, it's really pretty. It's really nice. And then Lane Taylor, I just like that, just helps out.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, their pass blocking is phenomenal. I mean,
oh
it's
my goodness.
Just,
it makes their struggles as a team this year even more puzzling because there just aren't a lot of scenarios where you have maybe the best quarterback in the league, certainly a decent wide receiver core, and the best pass blocking offensive line in the NFL, I think, and you struggle the way that they have. I mean, it's just unusual. You don't see that. I know the secondary hasn't been good, but they should be winning a lot more games than they are. In that unit, you got to keep those guys together because that is a premier unit.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and then with Spriggs, they're kind of providing some depth. I mean, hopefully he could keep developing, and they're a pretty fun unit. It makes their offensive struggles very odd. It's really, there's an underlying cause there for sure.
I think his name might be Mike McCarthy, and he might be gone after this year.
Yeah, something's up there, man. It's weird.
Yeah, Ali Marpet again.
Yeah, I wanted to circle back around to Marpet. This was a fun matchup, man. He went up against rookie Chris Jones a lot, Dontari Poe a lot. So he had a tough day, but tough day in terms of his matchups. I thought he played pretty well. This is just a really nice job to get around here on the reach block. I mean, he's so quick.
Oh man, yeah. Who's the player across from there?
99. I'm not even sure.
I'll look. But yeah, we talked about that before. But he's a ridiculous athlete, ridiculous out of his stance. I think. I mean,
yeah, that's nice.
He's so explosive. And he's doing a better job of latching and staying on contact, which I think is huge.
Yep. Yeah, 99. I didn't even look to see who that was, but he started. I mean, he was in the game the whole time pretty much. So, but it wasn't. I know most of their D line. I just don't know him. I know Howard.
Yeah, it was Raheem Nunez Roches. They had a couple guys injured, I think, so that was why he was in the rotation there a little bit, but. Yeah, that's interesting that he was out there as much as he was.
And here, Donovan Smith, man, I got 2 Donovan Smith clips. He's just such an enigma, man, because he really, I don't even feel totally comfortable saying this about a player, but his effort, man, is really questionable. It just looks like sometimes he just doesn't care. Mm-hmm. It's really odd to see, but when he turns it on, I mean, he's pretty special, man. I mean, if he played the same way that somebody like Bakhtiari plays, he can be really special.
Yeah, when we were talking about Bakhtiari, I actually was thinking of Donovan Smith on the other side of the coin, and you and I have talked about that with him a little bit, and like you said, hesitant to say that about a player. I've seen some of that from Joe Barksdale before in San Diego, and sometimes that stuff just is concerning because there's times where both those guys are really good players, and there's other times where it just doesn't look like there was much effort given on a certain snap. I don't know if it's conditioning or what it is, and if they could just play, find that consistent medium, they could play at a pretty high level. But that has been something that's been pretty elusive for both of them throughout their careers, especially Smith early on.
Yeah, and Smith is, he's 23 years old, man. He's 6'6", 340. This guy could be special,
right?
So he still has time, to kind of, change things the way he plays the game. But yeah, still during the game, he's going to flash. And, every time I watch him, there's at least one or two wow plays. And, this is just a really nice play. It's an angle drive block. He's going to block down on this 3-tech kind of, I guess that's a 3-tech right there to his inside, and just a nice block.
A lot of movement.
Yeah, he makes it look easy, and I think that's probably another backup. But that guy just
that's Kendall Ray's from San Diego. I'm not sure how much you've watched him in the past when he started for years for the Chargers. He was consistently one of the worst 3-4 defensive ends in the league, and the Chargers didn't replace him forever. Not to take away from what Smith does there because it's great stuff, but you can just see Ray stand straight up out of his stance and has no awareness of what's coming around him.
Yeah, that's a good point for sure. But Smith does what he needs to do there, and
keep those legs driving and create that huge cutback.
Another really nice job here. He comes out of his stance really violently and just,
Yeah, this is super hard. I can't see. I think that might be Chris Jones actually. That's coming out of his stance real hot there, and it is Chris Jones. Smith. This is about all you can do with this rep. I think.
That's a really nice job by Smith. Just bury him.
Right. You got to get that shoulder and keep trying to drive him and hope the running back cuts off you. Because Jones is coming out of his stance hot there. He's shooting that gap straight up. He's not slow playing it at all.
That's really good effort from Smith.
Mm-hmm.
You could see what happens when he does give that effort.
Right.
He could really solidify that left side.
It'd be easy to fall off of this too because he's at kind of a really extended angle there, and he kind of just keeps his feet moving a little bit, just enough to push him past.
Yeah. So the last few plays here are from the Cardinals. I really wanted to look at AQ Shipley just because he's the center. He's a guy I love watching, man. He's just kind of like a junkyard dog, man, when he plays the game. He's nasty. He's only 6'1", so he's underneath guys pretty much every single rep, and he's a pain to deal with for anybody. And him and Linval Joseph battled this game. Each of them got the best of each other, but Shipley's a really underrated guy, man. And the Cardinals, they were able to run kind of up and down this defense. So their offensive line is, I think, definitely getting overlooked, at least this game. And DJ Humphries is another guy, man, that nobody's talking about. But after that redshirt year last year, after being picked in the first round, he's definitely, a solid starter.
And I think he's doing much better in the run game than he is in pass protection. And fans tend to look at how players doing in pass protection more so than anything because the run game, they don't know enough to really be able to evaluate. And Humphries has really struggled in pass protection. There's no question there. But you're right. In the run game, I think he's been a big difference maker. Shipley is kind of that guy. He actually reminds me a little bit of Cody Wallace. I feel like they're guys that are you'd prefer to have as your backup center. Maybe you're a little higher on Shipley than I am, but I think he's one of those guys you try and replace every year. But then you end up he's the best guy when camp rolls around. He's still the best guy, and he goes out there and, like you said, he'll lose some reps, but tough, scrappy. He's been caught a bunch of times, I think, and just still managed to stick it out in the league. A guy who can play at this level and has continued to work hard, get better, and latch onto a roster spot. And Arizona's not had a truly dominant center for a long time. A lot of people thought they should look at Ryan Kelly in this past year's draft, but Shipley certainly makes them serviceable in the run game in that department, if not better than that.
Yeah, for sure. This is, I think his sixth team, and for Shipley. But yeah, like you said, he's a borderline starter, but he's a very valuable player to have regardless. And he can start for you. I mean, he started every game this year, I'm pretty sure. He's kept the rookie from Missouri on the bench, Evan Boehm, I think his name.
Yeah.
So, he's definitely played well. But yeah, this is a nice rep by him. I mean, he's just really nice job here. He's trying to work around, but he uses this inside hand to just get that guy flowing away from the play. Just a nice job. And then Watford, man, over here, the right guard, does a nice job too.
Yeah, help secure a little bit there on that. Is it 5 tech and then work your way up? Or 3
nice
tech.
job by Humphreys too.
Right, yeah. Humphreys, similar block to what we just saw from Donovan Smith. Just keep running it. And I think Watford helps him with a little punch there and a knock. I think that's Tom Johnson, who really does struggle against the run, which is weird because he's a very good pass rushing defensive lineman. But it's two very different sides of the coin for his game. But and that's how a lot of the players in this actually are, because Watford, I think he's been really bad in pass protection this year. But in the run game, I think that's why he's still in the lineup, because he gives them something there. He's pretty good in that department. So, and you could see, I mean, Kendricks isn't an easy linebacker to stick in space. And that's a pretty tough play for Kendricks because you're trying to play your gap, and the backside flow is clearly going to be wide open because Tom Johnson gets cut down.
Yeah, definitely. That's Linval Joseph, Eric Kendricks, and Tom Johnson. Even though Tom Johnson, is definitely a better pass rusher, that's a nice trio to get blocked there. And I mean, they were clearing holes this game that were insane. I mean, they beat up the Vikings, I think, at least a lot that I saw. I mean, Linval Joseph, Hunter, Barr, Brian Robeson, Griffin. I mean, they at one point or another they kind of handled these guys, so it was impressive. Humphreys right here, just a really nice job to sustain through, move your feet, the lateral quickness here, the placement, the grip strength, latch, sustain, and just run them. To sustain there is nice. And really to cut him off.
Right. And that defender's really trying to keep that play side shoulder free, and so you just basically got to run him right past it, and he does a great job of doing that. I mean,
yep, take him where he wants to go.
Right. Great job by Johnson. So patient too.
Dude, Johnson was fun to watch this game.
Yeah, I mean, could easily bang it up in there, but slow plays it a little bit. Cuts back when he sees Sendeo moving toward him. He's just a really good player.
Yeah, he really is. They have a nice one, too, with him and Ellington right now.
For sure.
So this is nice. This is kind of that gallop technique that I don't know if I've talked about on here, but Doug Free uses this a lot. It's a Bill Callahan principle, that's been spread across the whole NFL. But Humphreys here, the right tackle, you're going to see him kind of hop into this double team. It's called a gallop technique, and it looks like he's galloping into it. But, I mean, they just blow Tom Johnson off the ball. I mean, that's...
Yeah.
That guy's... He has no shot.
He's not even really in the picture anymore.
Yeah, but just a nice little technique there, that little hop. I love seeing that. It seems to really get a guy's kind of momentum going, and it really helps him get underneath the defender whenever I see it used. But just... Yeah, it's a nice kind of veteran technique there from Humphreys. So just wanted to, kind of touch on him a little bit, because I know he was pretty coveted coming out of Florida, and not a lot of people are talking about the positives in his game. So I just kind of wanted to,
I was a huge Humphreys fan, and so I'm glad to hear that there's been bright spots too. I've seen a little bit of it in the run game, and it's impressive. Pass protection, actually, you'll see in my clip as you pull it up that there's some things he maybe needs to work on still. But, he's definitely growing as a player. I think, being proficient in the run game and being proficient in pass protection are right away, when you're starting in the NFL is pretty difficult. So I think he's doing a really good job in the run game, and in pass protection, that's where he'll still continue to need some work, I think. But tons of tools there, and I think he can be a really good player, especially if he plays with the same intensity he played with at Florida.
Yeah, I mean, he's essentially a rookie, so with that in mind, he's it's pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm. Here we've got Stephon Tuitt for the Steelers, and if you, I've kind of highlighted them a little bit as the tape runs, you'll see it. But he's here in that like 4-5 spot at that across from Austin Pastor, the right tackle for Cleveland, and he just beats John Greco inside with a really nice rip move. It's kind of Tuitt's go-to move, but how he gets armpit leverage is just so key, and that's always been a little bit his staple since he worked with Chuck Smith a little bit and developed his hands. He's able to get on guys' edges and use that rip move. What really sets him apart, I think, as you'll see on this rep, his ability to bend those little tight corners to quarterbacks it has been really crucial. He's a big guy, but look how low he gets on this rep and his ability to like bend a little tight arc around Greco and get to Kessler.
Oh, yeah, that's nice.
I mean, that's a little tight angle for him to get. I mean, Greco's trying to probably run him upfield once he gets on his edge. So you can see his hand right underneath his armpit, and that rip move comes up. And look how low he is. I mean, Tuitt's 6'5", 6'6", and rips right up underneath him. And just he's kind of getting tackled in the process, but his ability to balance and show that, his hips are really just leaning really nicely as he gets to here. And look at that bend. I mean,
yeah,
to turn that tight of an angle. Yeah, it's just really good stuff. And I think he wasn't producing early on in the year, and there's a couple guys in this video that weren't, and so people were concerned about him after he had 7 sacks last year. But that's starting to come now. He had 2.5 in this game. I think so. He's got like 4 on the season, and so he might still reach that 7 mark or overtake it this season, and it's because of stuff like this. He's able to win one-on-one matchups. Problem was early in the year he's getting doubled all the time, and so now that he's getting more of these one-on-one matchups with some of the pass rush schemes the Steelers are using, and they're setting them out a little bit wider as they were here, that's helping him a lot, I think.
Yeah, and that's tough for Greco. I mean, he gets a good initial set, but I think Tuitt's upfield quickness and lateral quickness even here kind of catches him off guard, and he loses half-man leverage right about, right here. I mean, he gives up the corner pretty easily, and then, Tuitt bends it really nicely.
Right, and look at Tuitt's left hand there, too, just kind of pulling his shoulder pad forward and pulling him off balance. Way to use both hands on the rep.
Yeah, that's really nice from a defensive tackle.
Right. Here's Erik Walden for the Colts. This is the only sack Jack Conklin's given up so far this year. It was the first one he's given up, a rookie, who we've talked about a lot. He's played pretty well. He's also gotten a lot of help in pass protection. Left on an island on this one. And Walden, this is the last dude in the world I expected to beat Conklin for his first sack, because Walden is he's not really developed as a pass rusher. But here, sells the outside speed rush, arm chop, and an inside spin move. I don't know that I've seen that from him. I don't know that Conklin's seen it from him, and finishes the job. This is just a gorgeous pass rush. I'm certain, you'd have coaching tips for Conklin here, but I think Walden gets a lot of credit look at that arm chop, and then just, his weight shifts so quickly. It kind of makes me wonder why we never see this kind of stuff from Walden. Almost all of his sacks are effort ones or coverage sacks, but this was really impressive, so I had to throw it in here.
Yeah, the timing of his hands and his feet and the sync, how in sync they are is right. Really impressive. But yeah, this is just typical Conklin stuff. He's been doing this all year. That hasn't given up a sack thing is like the most misleading thing ever. He's going to step forward and watch how he's going to have to recover here. When he comes out of his stance, Conklin, he steps forward, and then look at that inside leg have to just watch how close his feet are.
Right, they almost cross, which he did cross sometimes in college. They almost do it here.
Yeah, it's the same thing, man. And I said, in my report on him, like, if you get a guy who can stress his set upfield and work inside, he's going to get killed.
Right.
But you just don't have a lot of guys that can do this. This is a really difficult thing to do because Walden is running upfield, full speed on that initial burst, and then to be able to work inside that quickly, that's the move right there. Not necessarily this move specifically, but that going upfield and then inside quickly like that with whatever handwork you use is going to always give Conklin trouble as long as his technique is like that.
And it's funny because even compare this by Conklin to what we've seen from Bakhtiari or what we've just watched from Ty, Nseke or whatever. I mean, it looks completely different. There's so much awkwardness to Conklin's movements, and Walden, give him credit because this clearly comes from tape study. He knew that this was going to be available to him, and you can see Conklin's weight's kind of out over his toes here. He never really looks comfortable in space there. He's leaning to initiate contact.
Look at his feet in this still frame.
Yep.
I mean, zero. It should never get like that, ever. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's a perfect storm there. I mean, but I would definitely give more credit to Walden there. That was really, really nice.
Yeah, really nice rush by him. Okay, so Jason Pierre-Paul, 1 sack coming into the game. I think the NFL has him at 1.5. I took away the half sack because he didn't do anything on the play. But he's at 1 sack heading into this game, 1 sack heading into the fourth quarter of this game. But if you want your production to spike back up as a defensive end or as a pass rusher, hope for matchups against Mike Adams. The Bears' backup right tackle was in the game, used to play for the Steelers. I know full well how bad this guy is at football, and had his issues at Ohio State off the field as well, but was kind of a project coming into the NFL and hasn't developed very well at all. And you can see Pierre-Paul really start to tee off late in this game, took advantage of him, got 3 sacks off of him, all by way of bull rush. I put 2 of them in here, and an Olivier Vernon sack is kind of squished in the middle of these. So we'll watch this one out. Just pure speed to power conversion by Pierre-Paul. He wins the leverage battle. Adams is too high and gets ridden right back into Cutler. I mean, Adams actually, you could see it better from a different angle, but he actually hits Cutler. That's how much, Pierre-Paul just has taken him for a ride here. Great hand placement by Pierre-Paul. He has not had a very good year in terms of production. He plays actually the highest snap percentage of any edge defender, 3-4 outside linebacker, or 4-3 defensive end in the NFL, yet only had 1 sack. So the production hasn't been there at all for him, for a guy that is, has his reputation and is making his kind of money. But this was great. I mean, he took over in this game. I have big concerns about him as a pass rusher overall. I don't think he belongs in that top-tier category. Some people put him in there, but he took over in this game and did some really nice things.
Yeah, I'm pretty thankful, happy for him, that he's been able to still be an effective player, given what's happened. And
Olivier Vernon hasn't really made good. I think he has 3 sacks on the year. He got big money in the offseason from the Giants. He also plays like 92% of their snaps. I think he's second or third highest among edges. The Giants never take those 2 off the field. They move him around some. Vernon has had trouble stringing moves together his whole career. He's had trouble. He doesn't get out of his stance great. And he's not the best or most explosive mover. So counters kind of are slowed down. He's like a little bit of a methodical mover. Power moves probably could be really good for him, and I think they have tended to be as his hands have gotten better. That's kind of where he's won. A lot of coverage sacks in his career, which has kind of inflated his production a little bit. He's a hustle guy for sure, and he plays a lot of snaps. So those are going to come. But this was a really nice move. Hit a little push-pull on Charles Leno, who, if I have a criticism of him, I actually like Charles Leno. I don't know how much you've watched him. I think he was a 7th rounder, a pretty decent left tackle. But he does tend to lean a little bit and try and initiate contact. And I think Vernon noticed that and caught him with a nice push-pull and a swim move here that I thought was really pretty.
Yeah, let's check it out.
That right hand gets on Vernon's on Leno's left shoulder pad, and Vernon just kind of pulls him. You see that right hand of Vernon?
His feet.
Right, yes, feet.
Yeah, his feet are all jacked up. Yeah, like they should be totally different. I mean, to step up field like that with that right foot, you're just basically opening up the door and putting the welcome mat on that outside, and Vernon takes it gladly.
And Melvin Ingram beat Leno on a sack almost the exact same way last season, except without the push-pull. He just kind of swam him or ripped him, I forget, but same type of taking advantage of his lack of positioning. And Vernon, it's just to use a push-pull like that on the edge and then get home is really nice. And combine it with a swim move. I thought that was a really impressive play by him, because that's sometimes he's had trouble reacting on the fly and recognizing those opportunities on the fly And so for him to be able to think the game like that here was really nice.
Definitely. He's, whenever I've watched him, because I watch him against Tyron Smith a lot, that whole people's, he got him a couple times, but really Tyron Smith dominated him aside from those couple sacks or whatever. But yeah, he's always been, like, his speed to power is pretty impressive. He's pretty explosive in his hips, but, like, I don't think his hand usage is very, like you said, his pass rush plan and be able to string things together after that initial burst kind of fades. He's always struggled there, I think.
Yeah. Sometimes he walks into his first move too. There's not like a lot of, it's not a lack of intensity. It's just a lack of, like, and he's shown the ability to be a little twitchier in situations, but he's not really like a guy who plays at different speeds very well. He's kind of a one-speed guy, and he kind of will walk into some of his first moves. So once those are defended, then he struggles to counter a lot of the time. So if he can just be a little more, like, decisive and explosive with his initial movement, I think then he'll have a little bit more success, but that's been a big issue for him so far. Here's Pierre-Paul again off the edge, left defensive end. Again, it's just a straight bull rush on Adams. And the third sack was too. Adams actually opened the gate outside. I don't have the third sack in here, but Pierre-Paul forced a fumble on it. This was just a brutal quarter for Adams.
Man, he just seems so passive.
Yeah.
With his strike, and he's definitely high.
And that's always kind of been the thing with Adams. Just a very passive player was his thing in college. It was his concern coming out. Did he love the game? There was all of those kind of questions, and there's just not a lot of intensity or physicality on tape. And so Pierre-Paul has been a very intense and physical player. I can rip on other aspects of his game a little bit, I think, but that's always rung true for him. So going into this game, once I saw Bobby Massey didn't make the trip, I wondered if Pierre-Paul could start to have some success. And then he didn't for three quarters, and I haven't watched those three quarters. I have to see what changed or what was different. The Bears are down here, so maybe he's teeing off a little bit more. But, yeah, he just straight up took it to Adams. The last sack's probably might be the most embarrassing. I didn't put it in here, but, it just was Bears better hope Bobby Massey gets back quick. He hasn't had a great year, I know, in pass protection, but he's a far and away better player than Mike Adams. So,
yeah, it kind of makes people. Hopefully, people appreciate Massey a little bit more.
Right. Big drop off between that position for the Bears.
Yeah, this is a good set here by Cody White here as well.
That's nice. Great set again, and that's Vernon inside. Again, they move him around a ton. And what's really interesting here is I'm pretty sure Jonathan Hankins is coming off the right edge. He's like 330 pounds, but look what he does to Charles Leno here. Works back and works inside on him. Just great hand usage and understanding of length and leverage outside. It's not horrible by Leno, I don't think, but it's just it's pretty impressive stuff by a nose tackle.
That was pretty nice.
And here's Danielle Hunter. He's the last one we got for you, and not a lot to say about this one. He takes DJ Humphries for a ride right into Carson Palmer. If you sack your blocker and the quarterback, you'll always be under the microscope. That's an under the microscope promise right there. And Hunter, his ability to convert speed to power is so far what's made him the most successful in the NFL. I got a great punch, great hand placement, and he's starting to string that into a bull rush as well. And the rest of his game still is developing as a pass rusher, but he's been able to rely on this and be successful with it so far. Just the suddenness of his movement. I don't think Humphries expected that. He just looked like he was caught by surprise. Left his chest open enough, and boom, Hunter just went right for it. One-arm sack.
It's not even that terrible of a job aside from, I don't know. He stays directly in front of him, and he's starting to kind of, brace himself and break that momentum. But like you said, Hunter's explosiveness and leverage is just too much.
Right. And Humphries deserves a little bit of an asterisk here because I think a more mobile quarterback maybe maneuvers out of the way, because Humphries stays between, he's trying to brace and slow play as much as he can. He knows he's going for a ride at that point. But, he tries to stay between the two of them. Hunter makes a great play, but Palmer just isn't kind of the guy. And there's interior pressure, so there's a myriad of issues here. And it's not really a knock on Palmer. He's just not really that guy. It's gonna,
right.
And so the guys like that can make their offensive linemen look a little bit better at times, a la Russell Wilson. But So it's certainly not the worst play by Humphries, but Hunter just a really, really aggressive attack as a pass rusher.
Yeah, there's Hunter, man, he's got scary potential, man. I mean, once he kind of figures out what to do technically, man, it can be pretty scary.
Yeah, and he's only playing about 50% of their snaps right now. I think 52% or something like that of the Vikings snaps, because Robeson and Griffin play almost all of them. They're like 82 and 85% or something like that. It's crazy. So he's only getting on the field situationally. He got 7 sacks on the year, and 4 of those are kind of that coverage cleanup variety, but he's still been able to put together a pretty nice resume early in his career. He's been impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate what the Vikings do, Mike Zimmer and Spielman and stuff, just kind of how they slow play their guys, and I know a lot of people get frustrated with it, but I think there's a lot of wisdom in what they've done, with Trey Waynes, and maybe even what they're doing with Laquan Treadwell, and what they're doing with Hunter, and what they do with, even like guy like Xavier Rhodes last year, and, just kind of let them gradually get better without throwing them into the fire. I don't know. I like it.
This is Rhodes' 4th year, but last year I think some people would have said he's probably a little bit of a bust. And now that's changed dramatically. He might be the best corner in the league this year. He's been up there, and so their ability to stick with guys and keep developing them, and guys like Hunter and Kendricks flash a little bit earlier, but people get discouraged when they don't see production right away from rookies. But Treadwell's going to be great. He's going to be just fine. They slow play Diggs. He's been great. They need offensive linemen for sure, no question there. But a lot of the rest of their units been pretty functional. So fun stuff on Under the Microscope. Good to look at some of these players and highlight them. We appreciate you guys joining us. Let us know your thoughts and so on and so forth. And we will continue to work to try and make this product the best it can be, and come back next week with some good stuff, some good Thanksgiving. Maybe we'll have some Thanksgiving highlights thrown in there. It should be a good slate tomorrow. So thank you guys so much for listening. I appreciate it, and we'll catch you again next time.